So welcome everybody. So today is an entrepreneurship visa and immigration update session for you, and we're gonna be with the one and only Edward Miller. So he is a NSW solicitor and registered Australian migration agent. He is also a mentor at the Academy of Entrepreneurs and a serial entrepreneur as well. He is the
Yes,
owner and
but
founder
I
at Miller and Co. Lawyers and Migration
oh
Agents. So today he will be discussing with us, how this thing works. The Australian Department of
yeah, I'm
Immigration
from
has
yeah.
made some exciting changes to the law, and in 2 weeks and months that favor.
Not yet,
So he will
not
be.
yet.
Let me mute. Sorry about that. So he will be discussing things with us, how we'll make things possible, and all that. Edward, I'd like you to say more about yourself, if that's all right. So,
Not a
yeah,
problem.
you have the floor.
Not a problem. Hi everyone, how are you? Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope everybody can hear me well, and the microphone and recording is all good. Today's session is more about not to go into depth of the visa process, or obviously details about what sort of on eligibility of specific visas. Today it's sort of the general topic about what's out there, what's available, what sort of visas potentially anybody could use towards their path to either be in Australia, either be temporary residents to stay in Australia for the purpose of work, and obviously for the migration purposes. We'll cover a little bit about the entrepreneurship visa, because that's what it's all about. And we could also discuss some other main visa subclasses, or I would say popular visa subclasses, such as the working visas, skilled visas, and training visas, and any sort of a visas related to either employer nomination or independent permanent migration, or obviously your startup business, potential startup business in Australia. How many of you been, obviously some of you already in Australia, some of you are overseas and thinking to come to Australia. So obviously to navigate across the sort of a visas on the Department of Immigration, it's pretty difficult. So I would always suggest to look for a separate legal opinion and invest a little bit money on your particular advice, so you obviously would know what to expect when you come to Australia, or when you are already in Australia and aiming to sort of reapply for different visa, either permanent or further temporary visas and so on. Because it's very important. I've noticed a lot of people are using sort of Facebook, forums and some other chat rooms where people sharing their visa experiences, and I look at some of those forums time to time, because I'm sort of subscribed to those forums to see what's going on out there. And sometimes I give people sort of a free advice or even correct them. And I've noticed that it's a lot of information people are sort of sharing and providing are not very accurate, because they're just based on mostly on their particular personal situation. And obviously every single person's situation is totally different with another person. And I can see there's a lot of misinformation floating online, particularly in social media. So I would always suggest to sort of find a professional to ask direct questions about your particular situation. Just to again give you a bit of a description who I am. I'm a migration lawyer, registered in New South Wales, not a migration agent, but a lawyer. So totally different sort of level of knowledge and expertise. I've been practicing for quite some time now here in Sydney. My office located in Bondi Junction, and obviously I know Paula, an Academy of Entrepreneurs for since the beginning. I helped the sort of a college with all the sort of a legal advices, not just about visas, but compliance and so on. So we've been friends and work colleagues with Paula for many years. And I'm obviously happy to continue to advise their students and run this kind of seminars to sort of give as much information and answer as many questions as possible. Because I could sit here and sort of talk about every single visa for ages, and I just gonna get everyone confused. And once the session would be over, everybody would think, what was that all about? So I usually run this seminars into more in interactive sort of a way, where people could potentially interrupt me, asking particular questions, as long as you guys sort of like staying away from personal questions. That I would rather prefer to have a chat with you face to face and have another separate, maybe either WhatsApp call or exchange a few emails if you've got particular questions in regards to your personal situation. But today's sort of a session, it's very sort of a, sorry? Is anybody asking something? Because my microphone muted. No, all good? Okay. Feel free to obviously post the questions in the chat box. I would be happy to sort of read it out and obviously answer. But let's sort of start talking about sort of entrepreneurship visa, just to start with. I mean, because it's very closely related what the Academy of Entrepreneurs does. They're preparing their students to be obviously world famous entrepreneurs, not just in Australia, but worldwide. And obviously a lot of her students who come into Australia to study at AE, they would like to obviously create some sort of their own design or design of their own business. And obviously AE helping them with that. And in order to fulfill obviously their dream and set up the business in Australia, they obviously use my services to guide them through the basic sort of legal and business requirements in Australia, as well as the obviously visa options related to it. Okay, I mean, I will go a little bit briefly about entrepreneurship visa. What is this sort of entrepreneurship visa? It's part of the investment sort of a stream visas stated at the Department of Immigration. It's for those ones who are, as exactly what it's written there, entrepreneurs. Now, those individuals who are interested or got some sort of an innovative idea, which obviously first could potentially benefit Australia, could potentially sort of create more jobs for local sort of Australians, as well as the obviously profit the person who opening the business. And obviously the idea has to be really innovative, really interesting, and there is a sort of a path towards the permanent residence if obviously you would be successful. I mean, in order to even go through details, this sort of visa now available by nomination. So I mean, you would need to gather as much documents as possible about your business and lodge so-called an expression of interest to the Department of Immigration, where they would decide whether your business idea is innovative, your business idea will potentially bring benefits to Australia and create jobs and obviously increase the overall Australian economy. So this is sort of the overview why the Department of Immigration of Australia sort of implemented this visa stream. It's to basically enhance Australian economy, obviously create more jobs, and obviously benefit Australian economy by having individuals with a sort of a high level of intelligence and creativity to bring something new to Australia. Okay, I've launched few of those kind of visas before, and so far they're still being processed. And the main thing what usually people ask me, so where do I start? I mean, you're starting with your own business, and what is the first thing you would need to think of? You would need to think of a business plan. You would need to have a very substantive startup business plan, very descriptive, in order to capture the mind of the person who would be assessing your expression of interest. And I'm talking about the Department of Immigration case officer. Obviously, they will need to cross-reference, obviously, your business plan with how this business plan, how this business will benefit Australia, how this business would be sort of operating, which state of Australia would be operating, and why is it your business, do you think, is so unique and obviously would benefit, you know, Australian, you know, culture, Australian economy, and so on. So the business plan is very crucial in terms of the entrepreneurship visa. Once we cross over that, obviously there would be personal documents you would need to provide to fulfill, obviously, the expression of interest. But the main thing, as I said, it's all about your business. And the business does not has to be sort of already operating in Australia. It's a prospective business plan. You would need to present your idea. What are you exactly planning to do? How are you planning to achieve those goals and your expectations? What is the business all about? What are the services or products you will be selling? And how you will plan to grow. So initially, if you're successful and you would be invited for this sort of a visa, the visa would be granted temporarily, and then there is a potential path for permanent residence, subject to obviously continue operating your business. I mean, so this is sort of in a nutshell, what's the entrepreneurship visa all about. I mean, it's not a very popular visa, I can tell you that, because it's designed for those individuals who are entrepreneurs, who are dedicated to their idea, who believe in their product and service, who's got who's got educational and work sort of experience in that particular area they're planning to open the business, because there is no reason to open any business where you have no idea about the business. You know, this is the main thing. You need to have some sort of a level of expertise in it, because there's virtually impossible for any case officer or anybody else to approve your idea without understanding that you actually know what you're doing, that you actually have some sort of experience, that you've done your research, that you've got the funding, or you're planning to get the funding somewhere, or you have some sort of a work experience in that industry you're planning to operate the business. I mean, how they would be able to approve the owner if the owner has no knowledge about the actual business they're planning to do. So it's very simple. So, I mean, on itself, the visa is fairly complicated, but you have to break it down into the single sort of blocks and make it simple. So, and those simple blocks are very, very much, if you would put yourself in the case officer's shoes and say, am I happy with this person who's planning to open this type of business? Is he have enough experience, qualifications, and has he done enough research to start this kind of a business, or he will be bankrupt in 6 months because he have no idea what he's doing, you know? So this is sort of a very simple sort of a questions I believe the case officer would, you know, ask themselves when they would be reviewing your paperwork and obviously all the documents about your business, such as you know, your startup expenses, your initial balance sheet, your prospective revenue, and obviously all the information about the business, your market sort of analysis, you know, your information about the business. With there, you have all the licenses, registrations, and so on. So it's a tough sort of a visa to dive into, but it's not impossible. I mean, you have to be very dedicated. You have to approach it not just from the position of the visa. You have to approach this from the position of, I'm the business owner. This is my business, and that's what I'm planning to do, regardless whether I'm going to do it in Australia or anywhere in the world. Because if you're coming from the perspective of visa grant or visa eligibility, in terms of this particular visa, you will fail. You will have to put all the efforts in your business and show your dedication to your business in order to present this idea to the government and say, this idea will benefit Australia. This idea is a fantastic idea. Either nobody doing it or some people doing it, but not very successful. I will succeed. So this sort of a visa is not for everyone. It's for those ones who are really interested in some particular sort of a product and services where Australia will potentially benefit, and they will do everything to sort of make it happen, whether they're in Australia or overseas. Okay, so once you show your dedication, I mean, the particulars of the visas and the legal requirements are just I don't know, just those boxes we need to tick later on. So the most important is to get your business idea across in writing and provide sufficient amount of documentation in order for the Department of Immigration case officers to make a favorable sort of a decision. I'm not gonna lie, it's this sort of a visa, it's not for everyone, as I said, but it's only for those ones who are seriously would like to approach the business. It's not, you know, if you approach your business idea as a hobby and present it to the government, it will not work. It has to be well structured, well organized, researched, and obviously got either legal opinion about your idea or, you know, some other opinion from very across of the industries. And once you get those sort of answers, all answered yes, it's a good idea, then only then you can obviously proceed to gathering all documents in regards to applying for this kind of a visa or applying for the expression of interest. I've got a few questions so far popping up here, so I don't want to sort of keep on talking without interacting with you guys. So let me just read it out, the first question. Okay, let's make this, okay, possible. So, okay, that's just a general one. Hey, but how many people have successfully receiving this visa? Well, I've had at least 4 in the last few years successfully received this visa. I mean, it took a bit of a while because the entrepreneurship visa, it went through a bit of a reform, because before there was imposed a very tough sort of a requirements on this visa, where you would have to get a either venture capital limited to invest in your business, or at least agree to invest X amount of funds to start the business. And that was sort of was a big sort of a block to get this to get those documents across, because a lot of entrepreneurs approached me previously. They've tried to secure those kind of a funding, and they were either unsuccessful, or they simply had no answers, because they would have to provide the documents, provide their business plans, you know, their ideas to those early venture capital limited or government sort of funded institutions, such as universities or things like that, and ask them to fund their projects. And they either were basically getting bounced back, or there were absolutely no news from those sort of organizations. And without those sort of fundings, we were not able to proceed with the second stage. Since then, the Department of Immigration changed their approach. Now there is a possibility to lodge the expression of interest without showing that you secure the fundings, and you might have a better chances of getting an expression of interest granted, just solely based on your business idea and steps you've taken so far. Okay. Okay, walking on the street, that's okay. No, keep camera. Okay, that's all right. If anybody walking on the street, you know, you can't hear me, just text me and I'll speak a bit louder. So, okay, Dexter texted, we are running the business in my country and have reached profitability already. But after a quick scan of products in Australia, I see that we have competitors already. So the question is, should our business be unique and currently not available in Australia to be granted for favorable result? Okay, so is Dexter, are you around? Where are you? Put your hands up. Okay, can you tell me a little? Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about what sort of business you're running and what sort of products you already have in Australia?
Okay. I actually checked Kohl's and Woolies, the website, and I've seen that the products that we produce here locally are there's similar products that we see that are available in Australia. The product lines that we are talking about is in the low carb keto market of snacks and products like that. So we're confident of our product, but there are products available already there in Australia. And I'm just thinking, if this is the basis of our proposal for the immigration case officer, would they see that it's just a redundant thing and say that Yeah, we're not.
Well,
This is not something that will work.
I mean, how much research have you done? I mean, are those competitors are um, got better quality than what you produce? Are those competitors are based in your home countries? Would you be able to see what sort of manufacturing process they're going through there before they ship all those goods to Australia? Have you done all that sort of a research? Are those products here already on the shelves are better than what you producing back home? Or what is the sort of what is the difference? How would you be able to compete? This is the question.
Right,
If you are to compete.
right. But I actually did. I was able to try those products in the shelves in the Woolies and all of that, and I'm confident to say that our products do taste better than that. So, in taste level, I'm confident of the product, but because there's just so much similarities, we might be thinking, would the case officer look down on such scenario,
Well, I
even
mean,
if we know that we have a good product?
I mean, the purpose of the Department of Immigration, generally speaking, is not to look down if there are similar products. It's for you to demonstrate that the business you're planning to do and the business you're planning to launch in Australia is unique. Even though you have the competition, I mean, the Department of Immigration, it doesn't so concern whether there is a competition or there isn't. I mean, you can't expect every business who would be able to launch sort of to use the Department of Immigration sort of a services to say that this business is unique and nothing like that exists in Australia. I mean, I'm sure there would be competition for every single business. I mean, because nowadays it's very hard to create something which is not already invented. It's just a lot of people do things which and learn from the competitors and do better. Okay, so it's not a question whether the competition will prevent successful outcome or successful invitation for your type of business. It's how you structured your business, how you present your business, how you planning to compete. You still need to acknowledge on the business plan that there is a competition, because part of the business plan you need to demonstrate that you research your competitors, you research your product and services, and you need to say why your service is probably better than the other one. How you planning to put your services on the shelf? Whether you would be competing with those people, that's irrelevant. You know, there are so many similar brands of products in Australia and all across the world. But you need to demonstrate how you will be particularly succeed, because your products are better, because you will be able to approach, I don't know, also calls and tell them, you could put our product next to those products, not for the purpose of competition, but for the purpose of consumers to choose the label and products they prefer. Some people prefer that sort of a label. Some people prefer your label. You know, it's very sort of a diverse environment. You know, when you compete, especially if you're planning to provide products. I mean, services is a little bit different, but with products, healthy competition, it's not gonna prevent you to sort of put forward your business plan to the Department of Immigration and say, this is what we're planning to do, and it really will bring value and obviously employability and all that, and benefits to Australian economy. I mean, competition on itself, it will not be looked down, in my opinion. Obviously, we need to put a very good submission showing that there is a competition, but it's not a deal breaker in terms of your business. Your business will be still successful with the competition. I mean, put it that way, there are so many fast food chains around Australia. If you want to go to McDonald's, if you like their chips, you go there. If you like a porter, you go down there. And they're all located next to each other. It's healthy competition, you know, there's no problem with that. It's mostly, you would need to demonstrate the factors such as whether your business is unique and interesting, you bring in something new to Australian market, you bring in a different taste, different quality to Australian market, that this business will bring obviously increase Australian economy in a sort of a positive way, obviously, will bring increase the employment, obviously provide jobs to local individuals, and will bring obviously benefit to Australia overall. So this is your mindset, what you need to think of when you present in your idea or business plan to obviously Department of Immigration for this type of visa. Yeah. Does that answer your question? So.
Perfectly. Thank you.
Edward, sorry,
Yes,
may I just interrupt? I am Jeannie. I'm the wife of Dexter, incidentally. So we're both on this call. So I just wanted to ask, add to his question. We do not plan to transfer the manufacturing company to Australia, but more of open up a distribution office in for the Asia Pacific. And I think we think also Australia is a perfect place for that. Would that be considered as a viable business plan that, you know, not, it's more of a extension to what we already have existing?
Well, I mean, entrepreneurship visa, it's, I mean, if we're talking about an entrepreneurship visa, this is sort of a slightly different what the business model you already have, because entrepreneurship visa is designed for entrepreneurs, startup businesses. You're not sort of trying to start a startup business, but more likely, in my opinion, to open a distribution channel or open a subsidiary of your current business in Australia. I mean, there are sort of different visas available for that sort of a venture, and obviously there are different paths for it. I would be more than happy to sort of discuss with you in person about sort of different options, because what are you trying to do? You're basically trying to open another subsidiary in Australia. There are specific sort of different path and different visas available for those ones who want to open either franchise or open another office and distribution channel in Australia. Entrepreneurship visa are strictly, specifically sort of a design for a startup, new innovative businesses who are either just started or planning to launch some sort of a campaign or planning to do innovative activities in Australia. I mean, what you're trying to do, you're trying to bring an existing business which has been operating back home in your home country, and obviously open it in Australian market. That's sort of a little bit different sort of approach, and I don't think it will be successful with the entrepreneur visa, because it's for the entrepreneurs. You guys are not entrepreneurs. I mean, you are entrepreneurs, but you are an existing business owners who already have experience, qualifications, and background, and sort of a past running the business. Okay, so I would be more than happy to speak with you sort of privately and advise you for what we could do in your particular situation. But in terms of the entrepreneurship visa, I don't think that would be a path for you at this stage. You know, we could have a look at the different path, and I'm not going to talk about it because it's sort of takes us to completely different area of an existing businesses planning to open a subsidiary in Australia. So there are sort of a type of visas there. Okay, I'm more than happy to set up sort of a different discussions. I'll text later on the forum my WhatsApp number and email address, and I will be more than happy to sort of have a quick chat with you guys and set up a separate time or separate Zoom meeting to have a look at in details what are you planning to do and planning to achieve. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
I don't think entrepreneurship visa is sort of right now maybe suitable for you guys, because you even though you're entrepreneurs, but you already passed the initial stage of being an entrepreneur. You're already business owners operating in back home. Okay, so but there are sort of options down there as well. So I'm not saying you're not eligible for this visa, but you would be eligible for something else. Okay, which we could potentially discuss. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So somebody okay, asked, do grants qualify as government funding for the visa? Do grants? Yes, it depends on the grants. Okay, it depends on the grants. If anybody scored any grants recently for their business activities, no, not yet. Yeah, generally speaking, grants, yes, but it depends where the grant is coming from. Either it's sort of a government agency or early venture capital limited and things like that. But generally speaking, yes, it's the good starting point. Yeah, if the government funding for the if you've got a grant for the funding for your venture, it's obviously a plus. But we could have a look at in details if you already have some sort of a grant for the purpose of entrepreneurship activity. We could discuss a bit further and see where are you at. Okay, so this is sort of an overview of entrepreneurship visa. I mean, there are so many sort of milestones and sort of preparation needs to be completed before even the lodging expression of interest. But those sort of points what I've addressed earlier, you would need to take into consideration if you think of obviously lodging expression of interest for this type of visa, entrepreneurship visa, and what sort of a homework and preparation you would need to do before that. Having said that, there are so many other sort of visas available within Department of Immigration. We're talking about skilled visas, we're talking about employer nomination visas and things like that. A lot of them sort of do lead to obviously permanent resident path. Some of them are not. So it depends obviously on your personal circumstances. If you're talking about, for example, maybe some of you heard about skilled visas. I mean, there are quite a few skilled visas obviously available for those individuals who are interested to permanently migrate to Australia, and you would be able to apply for those ones while either if you're in Australia or overseas. That's also an option. But in a nutshell, all those sort of most of those visas are point test visas as well, and required to fill out obviously an expression of interest with the Department of Immigration in order to fulfill the criteria and obviously score sufficient amount of points and wait for their expression of interest to be approved and the letter of invitation be issued. Okay.
Hi, Edward.
Yes.
I have a quick question. Sorry, I was at work, so I might have like missed some informations, but I wanted to know if it was possible to find somewhere what type of products was accepted as the entrepreneur visa. For example, I haven't started my business yet, but I have the ID, already registered the business. So it's like, sorry?
Are you in Australia?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's no list of businesses. That's the generally speaking, that's the answer. There is no specific list of products or services listed for this type of visa. And that's why it's open for you to demonstrate that this entrepreneurship activity is a unique, will bring value to Australian economy, will generate jobs in Australia with the view of a profit, and obviously you are skilled, qualified, and well-researched to run this business, and you obviously will be running it for the years to come. But there are no specific areas or industries or you know, tips where you would be more successful if you launch this type of a business or that type of a business.
And I have another question, is like, how big? Because for now I'm just me, but obviously I want to grow big. But do they look at your profits, how many employment you're creating? Do they actually track you down, you know, the track to see if you're doing the job and if they should take your visa away? Well,
absolutely. I mean, if you, it all depends on your startup business plan. That's what it's called, startup business plan. You need initially, when you launch your expression of interest, you would need to obviously already have a very well structured startup business plan, which will show what are you, you know, who are you, what are you planning to do, what is this business all about, what's the products or services you will be offering. That you've done your marketing research, you've done your SWOT analysis, you know, risk analysis, you know your competitors, you demonstrated that these products and services will obviously be with the view of a profit, and something is very interesting and new and will potentially generate a market and customers, that this business will potentially generate jobs, that this particular business will potentially bring value to that state where you're planning to open in Australia. And obviously that this business with a view of a profit means you need to provide a projections of your financials, projected profit and loss statement, business balance sheet for the next probably 3 to 5 years. That's sort of a startup usually business plan shows. So I mean, these are your projective sort of a figures, and obviously you would need to back it up with the projective market research, with projected, you know, assumptions and things like that. So startup business plan, it's all about the assumptions. Okay. But the assumptions has to be realistic.
Right. So if you underperform, it's gonna be all right. All right, as long as you're not bankrupt.
At the beginning, you present in your plan, your startup plan to the Department of Immigration for them to consider whether your business actually will bring value to Australia and bring value to the state. If they agree with that, you know, and grant you the visa, obviously you have to continue and operate the business or start the business and start generating your sales and fulfill your promises, obviously, to Department of Immigration that this business is, you know, planning to do what it's meant to do on the business plan, right? So if you're not pursuing your business after the visa is granted, obviously, or for some reason it's not working, or obviously it's fallen to, I don't know, liquidation or bankruptcy or something went terribly wrong, of course, just like any other visas, the Department of Immigration is capable to cancel the visa, because the visa you applied for, you're not fulfilling those requirements and conditions under. So the conditions are obviously build your business, run the business, and operate the business and fulfill those things what you put forward to them at the beginning before the visa got granted.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's much clearer. Thank you.
But they could obviously monitor the business. They obviously could potentially call the business. They could potentially ask you provide more information about how you're going, how you're operating, because they want to know that all the assumptions, all the great ideas you put forward to them at the beginning before the visa grant are still being met, or at least you following up through it, you know, because otherwise it's gonna look like a scam, and you don't want to scam the Department of Immigration. Trust me, you don't want to put forward something you're not planning to do, because they could potentially ask how you're going. They could potentially ask more information from you with their. They could potentially ask, can you send us first profit and loss statement from ATO in the first financial year to see that you're actually still registered, still operating the business, still fulfilling your promise according to your original business plan.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for answering.
No problem.
Hi, Edward. I just have a quick question. I'm just conscious of time. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Just the state nomination. I understand New South Wales have announced their, criteria. Victoria and Queensland, I don't see online just yet. Just regarding New South Wales, I'm based in Sydney, and I think you are too. There is quite a criteria. You mentioned about the overhaul of the visa recently, and they've taken away maybe that $200,000 investment needed by investors. They are still looking for some form of funding. Do you have any more insight into that? Is it 10 grand, 20 grand, or is there a number? So I know that there's an MVP grant in New South Wales. I was just wondering, is that sufficient, or do you know anything further?
Well, I mean, every state in Australia has their own little criteria. I don't want to speculate what New South Wales state will put forward in terms of this visa and what sort of the nomination requirements would be. I mean, they've changed quite a few times in a few decades, and they're always updating their sort of criteria, not as much as they used to, but there will be, I know for sure. I mean, some states, they haven't changed their criteria at all, and it's all on their website. But New South Wales, obviously, because it's the, one of the major states, sort of say, they sort of are publishing their criteria a bit late. So I think the best way of sort of approaching this is to just wait until they publish the criteria. So that's what it's not a sort of a rocket science. Once they publish their criteria, I usually look into it, and then I come up with the specific sort of a detailed advice on how to approach those criteria and what sort of a documents we need to prepare in order to sort of satisfy the state requirements. But in a nutshell, obviously, I mean, if you will be able to demonstrate, because you would need to fill out the form in every state, nomination to that sort of a state, and you need to obviously provide the submissions about what are you planning to do, how this entrepreneurship activity will benefit that particular state, that you've done your research, that this sort of a business will potentially create jobs, increase the obviously economy in Australia and that particular state you're applying for, let's say New South Wales. And usually the states, they are not unreasonably denying the nomination. And that's why the nominations usually get through fairly quickly. In the past, I would say it took up to 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to get the nomination sort of granted, as long as you explain all those sort of criteria and requirements and back that up obviously with the sufficient documentation. I mean, there is no sort of a specific tips, unfortunately, I could give you, because I also go with their requirements as they're being published. Okay, if I will sort of give you some sort of a tips, that would be sort of I mean, a bit prejudicial, because
it's all okay. I just have one other question. If on your previous, you said you handled 4 cases before. If this is a 5-year visa, entrepreneurs often have to work a day job and work on their project on the side. Is there working rights, like 20 hours a week working rights attached to this? I met a person in Adelaide who was on this pilot program before this entrepreneurship visa was launched, and I believe there was a 20-hour work week cap. Is that still in place? Do you know any further details?
I mean,
for this?
Yeah, I mean, once the visa, generally speaking, gets approved, you need to, obviously, your requirements are to work on your business.
Yep.
Okay, so and it has to be at least 90% of the business, of your time dedicated to the business, obviously. I mean, in terms of if you're trying to work somewhere else, I mean, it's not strictly speaking allowed, because this is why the visa is being granted. So before, you were obviously unable to work for your business because you wanted to ask for permission, obviously, to work for the business. And this is the visa when it comes into effect. And once the visa gets granted, you would have conditions imposed. Okay? And because it's such a fairly sort of a new visa, state nominated, obviously, visa, once the visa gets granted, you will have your own sort of conditions attached to the visa, and it will specifically will tell you how many hours you require to work for the business. But generally speaking, if you don't want to get into trouble with the government, obviously, the visa is granted for the purpose of you running the business, and this is the time you need to allocate for your business.
Thanks, Edward. I appreciate that. I'm just conscious this is a 5-year visa, and entrepreneurs often are cash strapped in the early days, and you have to keep yourself afloat. So I would expect them to provide some form of work hours similar to a study visa. That's no problem. Apologies, I have to run off, but really appreciate the great session.
And also, just don't forget, I mean, every state, they have their own little requirements, you know what I mean? So New South Wales is usually a little bit stricter than, for example, Queensland or Adelaide and things like that. But obviously, it depends on the sort of visa conditions, and you would need to comply with the visa conditions.
Yeah.
And obviously, New South Wales state nomination. But as I said, in order for me to sort of answer in details your sort of personal questions, I would need to speak with you personally and get a bit of a more understanding. What are you planning to do? Where are you planning to do? What sort of a time frame we're looking at? obviously based on your current visa and when is it expiring and what are you planning to do, because obviously to launch an expression of interest and gather documents, you would need obviously specific time for it. And once you launch the expression of interest with the Department of Immigration, because expression of interest is not a visa, you would have to wait until the Department of Immigration will consider it. And a lot of clients who come to me and say, once we launch the expression of interest, I will get some sort of a bridging visa. The answer is no, because the expression of interest is not a visa. It's basically your proposal to Department of Immigration to invite you to apply for the visa. Once the invitation comes through, subject to all the relevant documents are ready to go, the invitation comes with the invitation to apply for the visa. And when you apply for the visa, then you'll get the bridging visa, and then you can continue sort of working on the business while you're waiting. But obviously the expression of interest is not a visa, so you need to take that time of waiting into consideration. And it depends obviously on Department of Immigration workload and the processing department and individual case officer workload. That's how quickly you will get an answer. Some people get it earlier, some people obviously are waiting quite some time, put it that way. So I'm not gonna lie to you. The processing times now just gone a little bit crazy, because obviously the Department of Immigration is overrun with applications since obviously the COVID happened. But obviously the Department of Immigration trying its best to come back to the old processing times and give individual sort of applicant a specific time frame. But right now, obviously with what's going on in the world because of COVID, it's hard to predict how quickly you will get the nomination, how quickly you get the visa approval, and so on. So it's expect some delays in processing from the Department of Immigration, but I know that they're trying very hard to come back to the original sort of time frames before COVID. Any sort of other particular questions? I mean, I know you've got, I'm sure, tons of questions about, entrepreneurship visas, maybe skill visas, maybe startup business visas, in Australia. So there are vast sort of options available for you. The best option to approach it, the best way to approach it for me as well, is for you to email me your CV and the brief description. What are you planning to do? Either you have a CV, your curriculum vitae with all your qualifications, work experience, if you're already running the business, so for me to see the chronology of sort of your life, what you've done so far, and sort of a brief description, what are you planning to do? It could be just a bullet point, because some visas might not apply to you, but there are other visas which could potentially apply to your particular situation. Because I've had a lot of clients who come to me and say, I'm interested in entrepreneurship visa, and once I go deep into their idea and what they're planning to do, I basically turn around and say, entrepreneurship visa is not suitable for you, but there are other things you could do, and there are other visas out there based on your personal sort of a situation. Okay, so feel free to, if you would like to set up a sort of a quick consultation with me and discuss your particular situation and say, hey, am I on the right track? What else I could do and what other things available? I would be more than happy to assist you in that, either that you're overseas or in Australia. So it's always it's better to sort of get your personal situation across, and then for me to tailor the advice specific to your situation, because we could talk about sort of a general sort of a visa requirements, but not all those requirements could potentially apply to you, or we could potentially have a look at totally different approach, or find different options and find different, obviously, visa attached to it. So you could focus on it. Could be much faster, much easier, and obviously affordable, and so on and so forth. So I think this would be the best approach for many of you. But if you would like me to speak with you individually, I'm gonna text my WhatsApp number here and email address. If you're obviously in Australia, you know, you could text me, or overseas, obviously, shoot me a mail as well. That's fine, regardless where you are. That's all good. I usually very responsive with the emails. In terms of the phone, obviously, you know, I will acknowledge that. Just text me and say, hey, I would like to set up a time for a quick call, and we'll set up the time, and we obviously chat on WhatsApp. Otherwise, if you've got any particular questions, send me a mail through. Happy to answer, and happy to discuss sort of your particular situation and what are you planning to do in general. So I will be able to come up with few options, not just one, in your particular situation. So any other sort of pressing questions right now before we end? I'm just going to type my mobile number here. Anyone else?
This applies for all states, right? The state combination.
Yes, every single state they have their own sort of criteria. There are general criteria which are applied for applied for every single state, and some states just impose their own little criteria. But yes, it's applied for every single state and territory. I'm just typing my email address. 1 second. So yeah, just save my number and the email address. And if you'd like to discuss a bit further, or you have other questions, I would be more than happy to speak with individually, and obviously get an understanding of your particular case and give you proper advice. As I said, with clients who come to me aiming to apply for one particular visa, I basically come up with at least 2 to 3 options and say, this is the way we could potentially tackle this, and this is the way we could potentially approach it. And then we just basically pick the most suitable one, and we can start working on that. So don't think that this entrepreneurship visa is for everyone, and entrepreneurship visa is the only visa exists in your sort of a particular scenario. There are so many other visa options could be potentially available and could take you where you want to go. All right. Any other questions so far before we end? No? All right, I hope you enjoy this sort of a brief introductions. We do that quite often with AE, and I would be happy to do it again, maybe in a month's time, because from hopefully 1st of June or 1st of July, the Department of Immigration is going to propose new changes. And I know that they for sure is going to be a positive changes due to obviously all the stress we had with COVID, and obviously a lack of individuals in Australia, obviously, workforce and so on. So there would be new changes would be introduced either 1st of June or 1st of July. We haven't had the confirmation just yet, but I suspect would be good changes. The changes will apply across few visas, and we might do another seminar somewhere close to that date. So I would be able to share everything, what's happening with the Department of Immigration, what are the new things the Department of Immigration introducing, and how you possibly could use it and benefit from it in terms of the application for one or another, obviously, visa. Okay.
Thank you very much, Edward, for your time.
Welcome.
You've shared your email, I see, and also your number. So guys, please feel free to message him, and I'm sure he'll be happy to assist you any way possible. Mary Cora, this is also being recorded live. We're actually live on Facebook right now, so you could just watch it over there. If you're following Academy of Entrepreneurs, that would be awesome, because you'll be able to rewatch the session over there as well. So yeah, thank you very much, Edward.
Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, nice to meet you.
Appreciate it, and thank you everyone for joining this afternoon.
Sure, and let me know if you've got any questions. You've got my details, okay? You have a good one. See you later.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.